afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me here. Let's just jump right into the Epstein Maxwell Files update. Nancy Mace reveals Attorney General Pam Bondi will be subpoenaed over missing Epstein files. The victims of this horrific global network deserve justice. Then stop playing in our face, Nancy. Stop trying to have gotcha moments, Nancy. But let's get into it. Attorney General Pam Bondi will be subpoenaed over missing Epstein files, RadarOnline.com can report. In an explosive statement made by Nancy Mace, she insisted the victims of this horrific global network deserve justice. Mace stressed that Bondi claims the DOJ has released all the Epstein files, but they have not. Sometimes she alleged the record is clear on. The Epstein case is one of the greatest cover-ups in American history, Mace continued. His global sex trafficking network is larger than what is being revealed. Not just that. This is not just global sex trafficking. This is global drug trafficking. This is global identity theft. This is global fraud. And to say anything about a cover-up, Nancy Mace, you are complicit in the current cover-up. When you are putting your ego and political power above all else, you are helping. You are part of the problem. You are no different than the journalists that previously grabbed hold of this story and sensationalized it and lied on the victims' names so that they could grab headlines, so that they could circumvent their editors so they could have a cash cow. All of you all are complicit. And everybody keeps looking at legislators and attorneys. No, it was the general public. And it will continue to be the general public because you refuse to hold these people accountable. You refuse to tell them to stop with the theatrics because you are enjoying the show. For you, it is just a show. It is always just a show until you are the victim. Then you want everybody to get serious. The seriousness starts well before you or someone you know is victimized. DOJ admits 47,635 Epstein files, including Trump allegations, were removed. The Department of Justice has withheld from the public nearly 48,000 files stemming from investigations into Jeffrey Epstein after publishing more than 2 million pages of documents under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And let me reiterate, these are more than 2 million pages. People keep saying, 2 million documents. No, 2 million pages. And still no context on most of them. The initial legally mandated releases of documents comprised more than 3 million pages. More than 3 million pages. Though that figure is now roughly 2.7 million, according to an analysis of the files by CBS News and the Wall Street Journal. A spokesperson for the Justice Department told the outlets that 47,635 files were offline for further review and should be ready for reproduction by the end of the week. These offline files include materials connected to unverified allegations against President Donald Trump Sr., The Independent previously reported. And here's the thing. The Department of Justice and politicians and attorneys that have been talking about this know that there are a lot of things that have not been fully investigated, that have not been vetted. And they're releasing these things and talking about these things sans that context. They're not explaining to people the order of operations, which is a deterrent for justice. See, there are people that are pretending to stand on the right side of history just to get click, likes, and views and cash off of this. And they're not explaining to you what has been going on, what these documents actually mean. Our team is working around the clock to address victims' concerns, redact personally identifiable information, and any images of a sexual nature, according to the Justice Department spokesperson, Natalie Baldessar. All responsive documents will be repopulated online once proper redactions are made. You all have been going through these files for a while. This administration has been going through these files since they were sworn in. That's not my word. That is the word of the 1 and 2 at the DOJ. Blanche and Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi has said this more times than a little bit, that she's already fully vetted things. Kash Patel came and said, yeah, this has been fully investigated and gone through. She said she has certain things already on her desk. She gave binders to influencers that she invited up on Capitol Hill. So why are we still going through things? Oh, that's right, because victims came up and spoke via their attorneys and said that once again, they were not consulted. Nobody knew who all of their names were. Nobody knew who these people were related to, who their friends were, who had called in tips, who their attorneys were. So these things could be properly vetted. The Justice Department was compelled by federal law to release millions of files, including emails, court documents, photos, and videos, many of which include images or references to high-profile figures, including the president. DOJ told The Independent last week that it is currently reviewing documents that detail unverified allegations against the president. Those documents include summaries of FBI interviews stemming from unverified claims made by a woman who came forward after Epstein's arrest in 2019, who alleged, according to the files released by the DOJ, that she was sexually assaulted by both Epstein and Trump decades earlier when she was a minor. And here's the thing, statements like this need to be clear, and this is why context should be attached to these files as they're released. And stop playing around with the redactions so that people understand, so that other people's names who just happen to appear there, they're not vilified. Because your name being in the files doesn't necessarily mean that you were partaking in the illicit activities, the fraud, the trafficking of drugs or people. And what's pissing me off is that I'm seeing in so many comments sections, that I'm hearing in so many conversations, well, it's easier to say who's not in the files than who's in the files. I need y'all to think for a minute. Think for a minute. As a matter of fact, pull out your phones right now. Pull out your phones. Randomly pick a conversation, whether it's a DM, a text, an email, or go to one of your comment sections. How many people are discussed in that thread? Are those people involved in the thread? Do those people know that that thread exists? How often have you sat down and struck up a conversation and spoke about somebody who wasn't there, whether they were a celebrity, a coworker, a relative, or whatever? How often have you been like, oh, did you see such and such's outfit? Or, oh my God, that presentation that such and such gave. Oh, I went to this event and the keynote speaker was, or blah, blah, blah is going to be starring in my favorite TV show. Does that mean that person is complicit in whatever illicit conversation took place afterward? I need y'all to think. For some reason, especially in the United States, people are so quick and so easy to compartmentalize themselves out of reality, out of common sense, out of the day-to-day order of operation. And I need y'all to think, how does that help anybody? How does that help anybody? Why do y'all keep creating fan fictions for everything? Why do you feel the need to turn every damn thing into a conspiracy theory? DOJ told The Independent last week that it is currently reviewing documents that detailed unverified allegations against the president. Those documents include summaries of FBI interviews stemming from an unverified claim made by a woman who came forward after Epstein's arrest in 2019. That is something, I reread that for a reason, because that is something that should have already been vetted. If you're claiming that y'all investigated everything up to this point, you admitted that you, and Trump admitted this, that you talked to Trump about how many times his name came up. You would think before you got to a point where anything was released to the public, you all are litigators. You went to law school. You have Juris Doctor. Okay? You would think that you all would investigate everything so that you could tighten up your narratives, so that you would for once have concrete evidence to slap down on the table and go, booyah, booyaka, booyaka, here it is. This is who looks guilty. This is who looks innocent. Here's the list of people that we are going after for drug trafficking, sex trafficking, identity theft, financial abuse, elder abuse, minor abuse, you name it. In a statement in January, the Justice Department noted that some of the documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims against President Trump Sr. that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. Those claims are unfounded and false, the statement said. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has previously said the Justice Department withheld duplicate files that could compromise active investigations, child sexual abuse material, and files that would reveal survivors' personal information. Following the reports of the missing interview files, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Democratic members of Congress are engaged in an all-out oversight effort. We're going to pull on every thread, he said during a press briefing February 26. We're going to chase every lead. We'll talk with whistleblowers. The president has repeatedly denied wrongdoing and insists he cut ties with Epstein years before the wealthy pedophile who killed himself in a New York City jail cell while awaiting trial and sex trafficking charges was under investigation. Trump has characterized efforts to release the full files as a hoax perpetuated by Democratic officials to distract from his agenda, and Trump has sued the Wall Street Journal over the publication of an alleged letter to Epstein, a story he labeled false, malicious, and defamatory. Keep in mind that the same person who owns the Wall Street Journal owns Fox Entertainment News. Yep, Rupert, the Australian American. And if this is a Democratic hoax, why not release everything? Why is a Republican, MAGA, if you will, who cannot stand his opposing political party going so far to protect the opposing political party? Under legislation signed into law by Trump in November, the Justice Department was ordered to release all files connected to investigations connected to Epstein by December 19. Trump's name appears thousands of times in the files. The president socialized with Epstein throughout the 1990s and 2000s, and Epstein once described himself as the president's closest friend. Trump has not been accused of criminal wrongdoing. Yes, he has. And one's appearance in the Epstein files does not suggest otherwise. True. This is why context is important and context is needed. Okay. House committee subpoenas Pam Bondi to testify on her handling of the Epstein case. And this go around because we know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. We know how Pam Bondi prepares for things. Okay. She's going to come with another burn book moment. She's going to have her staff try to come up with witty quips, and they can't. Okay. They're not shit talkers. They're not roasters. Okay. They don't know how to play the dozens. Okay. They don't have no yo mama jokes. And they're not really good at proper investigations, which is scary for the rest of us. So, hey, oversight committee. Hey, come here. Let me talk to you. Be prepared to bring forth contempt charges against her. Hold her in contempt. Make a full example out of her, because this will send a twofold message. If you all are truly about justice, put the fear in the rest of the administration and to any and all living co-conspirators, known and unknown, of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Make it known that you ain't here for play. Okay? Let's get into it. A House committee voted Wednesday to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi to testify about her handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. 5 Republicans joined with all Democrats in support of a motion to call the nation's top law enforcement official up to Capitol Hill for questioning, and the motion itself was offered by GOP Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina. Here's the thing, Nancy Mace don't play in our face with this hearing. Make sure she shows up. If she tries to skedaddle out of it, vote to hold her in contempt. Number 1. Number 2, just like y'all did the Clintons. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, release them. Let us see the footage. Let us see it, whether you do it live and in living color or later on. Let us see it. And, excuse me, remember to use the same taglines, the same gotcha moment quotes on Pam Bondi that you did everyone else. Be prepared to hold her accountable. Ask her all of the questions. It underscores the increasing frustration with Bondi among members of her own party, catalyzed in part by the Epstein saga. The Justice Department did not immediately return a request for comment. Representatives Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, Tim Burchett of Tennessee, and Michael Cloud of Texas were the other Republicans on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee to break rank Wednesday afternoon. And with this breaking of rank, make it a full breaking of rank. Do not break rank for the sake of optics, of aesthetics, and then get into the hearing and then start that same BS MAGA posturing, because you are not helping the victims, you are hindering. Making a show, a spectacle of what's going on, their pain, their trauma, their lived experience. At this point, their life's work is, that's not where it's at. And at this point, attorneys generals and attorneys for surviving victims and their estates, if people like Lauren Boebert, James Comer, Nancy Mace continue doing what they're doing, file against them as accessories after the fact. And I mean that. File against them as accessories after the fact. Stop allowing people to delay or destroy the possibility of justice for these victims. They have been through and endured enough. You all have called their credibility to the forefront. You have dissected it. You have called them all sorts of names. You have compounded their mental anguish. You have stalked them. You not only allow people to steal their childhood, but you are actively stealing their happiness and their adulthood. Y'all get creative when it comes to everything else. Accessory after the fact. For everyone standing in the way, being in the gap, trying to shoo justice away. Anyone that wants to make a spectacle of it, I'm not kidding. But critics in both parties have accused Bondi of slow walking the release of the Epstein files. It was her announcement that the DOJ would not make further information available in the Epstein matter that sparked outrage last summer, culminating in a vote by an oversight committee to force her hand. Also, when she shows up, because y'all better force her to show up, make sure you keep reiterating to her that it was a bipartisan vote. That it was a bipartisan vote for her to be there. That it was a bipartisan vote for her to answer questions. That it was a bipartisan vote for her to be honest. In November, Congress passed legislation further demanding all materials in DOJ's possession related to the convicted sex offender be released. After a delay in publication of documents by the statutory deadline, the department announced earlier this year that it would be withholding millions of additional pages. We're going to be talking about real substantive issues like the 65,000 documents that are being hidden by the DOJ right now, Mace told reporters Wednesday after a vote. Mace, we need this type of vigor and this honesty and transparency through everything. You have made it your entire personality trait as a politician that you are a survivor of rape. You are not conducting yourself as such, because why are you so dogged at standing in the way of justice occurring? Now, new Epstein files to be released after missing Trump claims. Just under 50,000 documents thought to remain unpublished will be seen by the end of the week. We did talk about that before, but U.S. Justice Department is to release nearly 50,000 missing Jeffrey Epstein files this week. The documents, which were referred in the tranche released in late January but appear to have been withheld by the department, potentially contain unverified claims about President Trump, including FBI reports detailing a woman's unsubstantiated allegations of sexual misconduct against him. You didn't withhold anything when it came to anybody else. There was nothing more than a notation of a hotline tip regarding Jay-Z. You put it out there. There was a picture. There were pictures of multiple black celebrities with adults. You blacked out the faces of the adults and gave an impression that something else nefarious was going on without any type of context. Like, stop playing. You're trying to put forth certain narratives on purpose. Now, in case you were not aware, right wingers and Trump and just in general pedo sympathizers have clamped on to an attorney for the Clintons being a friend of Ghislaine Maxwell's. So we're going to take the time to meet Cheryl Mills, the high-powered attorney at the center of the 2026 Clinton deposition. So, just a second. I thought this transferred over, but it did not. So we're going to transfer it really quickly just now. Oops. All righty. Okay. If you've been following the recent political theatrics in the U.S., you've seen the images and videos of former Secretary Hillary Clinton and former President Bill Clinton's deposition on February 26th and 27th, flooding the news cycle. These highly anticipated depositions reveal more than just legal testimony. They reveal a powerful Black woman behind the scenes who is a legal juggernaut and a political savant. Social media has been buzzing with questions asking, who is she? But the major power players in Washington, D.C., New York, and Africa knew exactly who this powerful woman was: Cheryl Mills. Mills has spent the past 30 years behind the scenes navigating the world's most complex political corridors as deputy counsel to President Clinton and later as chief of staff to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And now she is on the main stage. A defining detail of Hillary's February 26 deposition was the battle over whether it would be a public or closed hearing. While the White House Oversight Committee, led by House Oversight Chairman James Comer, was adamant about a closed-door session, Mills led the charge to keep the doors open to the media and the public for her client, former Secretary Clinton. Pushing for an open-door hearing, Mills sent a signal to American citizens and Congress that they had nothing to hide. Her adamance on transparency reflects a personal philosophy she has long held about the legal profession. As she once noted, while many see lawyers as simple advocates, she was inspired by change makers like Thurgood Marshall. I want the world to be fair, and if I become a lawyer, that's what lawyers do, she shared of her early inspirations in a sit-down interview with Zotis. A graduate of Stanford Law School, Mills is more than a practitioner. She is a legendary strategist. Her brilliance, moral character, and unapologetic attitude can be attributed to her father's service as lieutenant colonel in the Army. During those years growing up, she moved every 3 years, which contributed to her ability to adapt quickly and with discipline. By the 5th grade, she had already decided her path. After Stanford, Mills started her career at Hogan and Hartson, where she focused on the high-stakes work of school desegregation. She entered the national political realm in 1999 as deputy White House counsel. During President Bill Clinton's impeachment trial, she was widely regarded as the shining star of the defense team, powerfully framing her summation around a historic record of civil rights and progress. Since arriving at the White House, Mills has remained unapologetic about her fierce, strong willed approach to her duties. I'm going to be a champion for you one day, and you're going to hope that I'm just as fierce and just as tough for you as I am for what I'm advocating for right now, Mills said of her professional reputation. Cheryl Mills' trajectory is a masterclass for the multi-hyphenate professional. She has never been just one thing in her career at the White House. As the chief of staff for the U.S. State Department, she managed a staggering $55 billion budget and 50,000 employees. Although she is no longer part of the White House ecosystem, Cheryl's influence stretches across industries and national borders. She currently serves on the boards of BlackRock and iHeartMedia and is a founder and CEO of Black Ivy Group. With Black Ivy, Mills is using her political and courtroom experience to enhance global infrastructure and build commercial enterprises in Africa. After leaving the White House and entering the private sector, she also worked with Oprah Winfrey and Oxygen Media. If there's someone seeking to do something that seems exceptionally hard and different, and am I willing to take the risk with them to try that? Mills explained her move from the White House to the private sector. As the media continues to dissect and analyze the 4 hours worth of footage of Hillary and Bill Clinton's depositions, the lesson Forbes BLK readers should be taking away from Cheryl Mills is this: true influence isn't how many people know you or how many followers you have. True influence is built through strategic placement and the ability to command every room you enter. The clips and images from the Clintons' depositions continue being discussed and shown in the media across the U.S. Remember that for 30 years, a Black woman was the cornerstone and force behind a political dynasty. Her name, Cheryl Mills. The thing about living history is you never know you're living history until you look back. Cheryl Mills. Now, a lot of people are making a big hullabaloo about her friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell because she does appear in the files due to emails such as this, where she talks to a fellow adult about what she's doing. Like I said, a lot of times, and keep in mind, if you weren't alive during this time, or different people utilize their phones in different ways, and a lot of people didn't really start using multifaceted smart cell phones until they started being labeled smartphones. So Trio and BlackBerry users, etc., did this a lot, where, especially in the times where you were being charged until 4, after 4, or after 7, or after 9 per character when texting, you would shoot an email back and forth, and you would have conversation through email. There were online messenger services, etc., that people would use. So we have to keep that in mind when looking back on some of these things. So yeah, this is the drama about Madam Mills appearing in the Epstein files. She was in communication with Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's not forget that Ghislaine Maxwell, just like Jeffrey Epstein, loved that proximity to power, loved ingratiating themselves into the sphere of powerful people. I don't know if this is. Okay, that is the same thing. Sorry about that. I'm closing out today's updates. Trump claims lurk in thousands of Epstein files about to drop. A sprawling trove of documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein is set to be released after federal officials acknowledge that tens of thousands of other files quietly vanished from an earlier dump. The missing materials were referenced in the tranche of records released earlier this year, but were withheld temporarily while officials reviewed them for sensitive materials. Some of the files are believed to contain unverified allegations involving President Donald Trump, including FBI notes from interviews conducted in 2019 with a woman who accused Epstein of abuse and also made allegations involving Trump. According to documents already released, federal officials summarized the woman's claim that Epstein introduced her to Trump and that she alleged the future president assaulted her during an encounter when she was a minor in the early 1980s. Trump has denied the allegations, and the FBI did not assess the credibility of her claim. A mere mention in the files does not indicate criminality, and Trump has long denied any wrongdoing. A White House spokesperson told the Daily Beast, and I quote, "Just as President Trump has said, he's been totally exonerated and on anything related to Epstein. When? Where? How? What jury of his peers exonerated him? What judge or magistrate exonerated him? What piece of evidence within these troves of pages of documents exonerated him?" Maybe I just don't understand the meaning of the word. Maybe I'm confused on definitions. By releasing thousands of pages of documents, cooperating with the House Oversight Committee subpoena request, signing the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and calling for more investigations into Epstein's Democrat friends, President Trump has done more for Epstein's victims than anyone before him. How? This week, the Department of Justice said thousands of files linked to Epstein were taken offline for additional review after outside analysis found 47,635 were missing from the document release carried out under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Officials now say the files should be ready to be published again by the end of the week, according to the Daily Mail. 47,635 files were offline for further review and should be ready for reproduction by the end of the week, a spokesperson for the Justice Department said. The renewed disclosure comes after an analysis by the Wall Street Journal and CBS found that files appeared to be missing from the initial batch of Epstein-related documents made public. And I think because of how they were redacting things, they didn't think that people could figure out what was missing. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who has overseen the document release, has repeatedly rejected suggestions that the department withheld records to shield public figures. I can assure that we complied with the statute that we did not protect President Trump Sr. Yes, you did. Blanche said during a news conference earlier this year, "We didn't protect or not protect anybody." A bullshit. We all have eyes. The Epstein Files Transparency Act requires the Justice Department to publish most records connected to the criminal case against Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The law allows the department to withhold documents only if they are duplicates, protected by attorney-client privilege tied to an ongoing investigation or unrelated to the cases. And here's the thing: if you keep withholding things regarding President Trump, we're going to have to see a grand jury convening, because that means that you've been investigating Trump. But those are the updates that we have for today regarding the Epstein Maxwell files. As more information comes in, as always, I will have them for you. Otherwise, I will see you all at 3:30 p.m. for the Taz Effect Daily News in a way you did not know you could use. Until then.